Look at all these people. This is fantastic. And I just want to say good afternoon to everyone. And it's great to see you again. Let me get my glasses because I'm not as young as I used to be. And so it's good to see you all again. Our last press conference on this topic was March of last year. And thanks again for being here to cover an incredibly important topic for thousands of Georgians with intellectual and developmental disabilities who need assistance to join the community and receive quality services that Governor Kemp is not providing. I'd like to reintroduce ourselves. I'm Philip Woody, the father of Evan Woody, right here, who's a 22-year-old young man who suffered a traumatic brain injury at 18 months. As a result, he lost 20% of his brain and now has a 3-year-old cognitive equivalency, and we perform all of his basic skills like bathing, shaving, and toileting. Evan is nonverbal but has a wonderful spirit and blesses everyone he meets. I'm joined by my wife also, Lisa, and dozens of supporters and members of our special needs community. Give yourselves a hand. All right. Evan received the Now Comp waiver this past year, but we are here to continue to fight for the 7,000 others who are qualified by the state for services, but for whom the state will not fund those services. We're also here to bring light to the crisis of care for those who have received the waiver. So let me start by saying that I and hundreds of others have been fighting this fight for funding and quality services for over 10 years, and we're tired, but we're gonna keep fighting. I brought a prop today that I want you to pay attention to during my talk, and it's a dog leash, and that'll come in handy a little bit later. So why are we here in numbers, and what is the issue to which the legislator is paying too little attention? There was a time when names like Willowbrook and Milledgeville sent chills down the spine of families with disabilities. These are the infamous examples that were exposed for the appalling conditions that waited for children like Evan. This led to the 1990 Americans with Disabilities Act, which was signed into law by George H.W. Bush because he took a bold step. And now we need Governor Kemp and the General Assembly to do the same thing. In the state of Georgia, there are tens of thousands of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who can apply for a Medicaid waiver to allow them to live quality lives in their home and community versus being isolated. Georgia has qualified 7,000 of these citizens for services, but they are on a waiting list. You'll hear the term planning list, but it's actually a waiting list. Some for longer than 10 years. Governor Kemp only allocates funds to support 100 of these 7,000 per year. That's only 1.5% of the population that's on the waiting list. Why do the Georgians on the waiting list need a waiver? Well, because needed home and community-based services like day programs and residential living can cost tens of thousands of dollars a year. If a person with a disability lives to be 70, that means millions of dollars out of a family's pocket, and that's an insurmountable cost. If a Georgian with a disability, developmental disability, actually received a waiver, many would be lucky to find quality direct support professionals or caregivers due to the incredibly tight labor market and the fact that caregivers get paid $10 an hour. That's $10 an hour, which is less than a babysitter, a fast food worker, and less than a dog walker. So Michael Housel, a self-advocate, will follow me and talk on that subject. Next, for a caregiver, the care for a disabled family member can be painful physically and emotionally. And in a year when Speaker Ralston is promoting a focus on mental health, this is huge for our special community. My wife, Lisa, will talk further on the subject of mental health. And you must please keep in mind that this is not a partisan issue. It's a moral imperative. All of my friends who know Evan, Republicans or Democrats, agree that this is how they want their tax dollars spent. My friend Pastor Don McLaughlin will talk to the moral imperative of this issue. And finally, and most importantly, Sally Harrell, the champion of the cause for services for Georgia's special community, will address how we can reach the goal of funding the 7,000 persons waiting and how Georgia can address the need for quality services for this community. One more thing. 5 years ago, the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities was asked by the General Assembly to create a report on how to address and eliminate the waiting list. It would have funded 3,500 people on the waiting list by now and would have begun to address the issue of services availability. Quoting the report, the DBHDD is committed to addressing the growing number of individuals on the planning list with unmet needs, as well as increasing the number of people who receive the now and comp waivers. Governor Kemp, the DBHDD, 7,000 people need to see action. Michael, the mic's yours, and will you please tell us about your experiences?
My experiences was the first time I was living with my mom and my dad and my brother and sister. My mom passed away shortly after, and my dad passed away too. But my brother takes care of my aunt and my sister, and I am taken care of by caregivers. This is a big thing that people need. Governor Kemp is not seeing this, and he needs to see it. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to be here at our state capitol to speak to you today. Thank you, Senator Harrell, for your hard work and dedication for all our friends and family. To have the support needed to live a life worth living in the community. My name is Michael Housen, and I represent the Leadership Collective of United for Change, a statewide grassroots movement of self-advocates living all over our beautiful state of Georgia. We have hundreds of members from Atlanta to Valdosta, Athens to Columbus, and many other small towns like Tipton, where I live. Senate Bill 208 is the lifeline that so many people I know need to live a life they love in the community, with the people they choose in the places they want, and with their wants and needs being the focus in their own homes. Right now, there are over 7,000 people like me that live waiting on a list, the Medicaid waiver planning list. Some are in family homes that struggle to meet their needs. Some are in hospitals. Some are in nursing homes. Some are in jails. Some are in institutions. This is not living. This is waiting. SB 208 would end that waiting list in 5 years. I would not be able to live in my apartment without supporters paid by the Medicaid waiver. I'm an independent person, but I need help just like all of you need help. There are other problems that need to be fixed. In the same time, supporters of people with disabilities live in poverty. The average worker that support people, DSPs, make less than $11 per hour. To make sure people have their needs met, make sure we have a safe home, take us where we want and need to go, help us with our finances, medical treatments, write everything down, meet all the state and federal requirements, and make sure we are living the life we love, united until the workers can earn a decent living. There will be constant turnovers. I've had more DSPs than I can remember. Some are the best, but they can't survive on the low wages. We must address the way our state, not just our state, our nation pays for, supports. Any person here could need support at any time. Having a disability label is one accident, one medical treatment, or a medical problem away from being a reality for all Americans. Like my friend Sheila Jeffries said about SB 208, let the money go, free our people. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. And I'd now like to introduce my wife, who will communicate on the mental health challenges of special needs families.
Hello. My name is Lisa Woody. My husband Phil already gave you some background about our son Evan and his traumatic brain injury at 18 months of age and the extreme struggles we have experienced with trying to get the NowComp waiver. I have what is referred to as a survivor personality. I can find ways to cope with a difficult circumstance. I am resilient and durable in distressing situations. I regain emotional balance quickly, and I thrive by gaining strength from adversity. They say that it takes a village to raise a child, and I don't know that that could be any truer than for parents of special needs children. Yet in most cases, that village is never there. Being a caregiver for a child with special needs is like sacrificing your life for another. Parenting and caregiving will continue indefinitely, and the challenges become greater as the child and we age. Parent caregiving has all the classic features of a chronic stress experience. It creates physical and psychological strain over extended periods of time, accompanied by high levels of unpredictability and uncontrollability. It can create secondary stress in work and family. The daily adaptations, financial blows, uncertainty about the future, lack of options, and never-ending daily to-do list means the role of a parent caregiver overpowers, let me repeat, overpowers every other facet of life. The pandemic has only exacerbated the isolation, depression, anxiety, anger, PTSD, and exhaustion that parent caregivers experience. This can lead to poor physical health and substance abuse and suicide. Do I have parent caregiver friends who struggle with dark thoughts? Yes. Have I or my husband ever struggled with dark thoughts? Yes. However, I have a resolute survivor personality, and those dark thoughts only exist for a fleeting moment. Without question, I would never follow through. Ignorance is bliss. She's fine, he's fine, they're fine. We plaster smiles on our faces and pretend like everything is fine. Most caregivers are sleep deprived and unseen. Some days it doesn't matter if there's still light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel itself is exhausting. However, the burden is not the disabled child. The burden is our society failing our families. Georgia is ranked as the worst state when it comes to mental health and access to care. This legislative session, a bipartisan group of lawmakers has unveiled the Mental Health Parity Act, led by Republican House Speaker David Ralston, who said at a press conference, quote, "There is no issue this session more important to me than this issue. I'm tired of telling desperate, hurting families that we have no treatment options available in Georgia. Why is it that the same level of compassion is non-existent for the desperate and hurting disability community?" Our annual review with Evans Planning List Administrator for the now-comp waiting list would often devolve into my crying and screaming into the phone. I feel like I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Is that what it takes? Do I need to go ahead and have a breakdown before my son gets the services he is already legally qualified for? The blatant decision by Georgia's elected officials to ignore the need for more now-comp waivers is staggering. That decision has put the disabled in an impossible situation and pushed parent caregivers to the razor-thin edge of needing the Mental Health Parity Act for themselves. Please understand, if you help the parents, you help the child. Last Thursday in the House Appropriations Subcommittee meeting, Representative Tommy Benton's response to the approval of more now-comp waivers was, quote, "I think people," meaning parent caregivers, "need to be doing more." He also said, quote, "I've got some other comments, but they might be too controversial." Representative Benton, you, as someone who represents the people of Georgia, should have the empathy to understand that parent caregivers are not sitting around waiting to get something for free. I suspect that a great many of our elected officials have similar opinions. As a requirement to sit on this committee, I think you should spend 24 hours in the home of a disabled person on the now-comp waiting list. My husband Phil and Senator Harrell met with Katie Dempsey, the chair of House Appropriations Subcommittee for Health and Human Resources. The meeting was problematic, not because Representative Dempsey was unsympathetic, but because, quote, "the problem is where are we going to find the funding?" Honestly, Representative Dempsey, it is not my job to find that revenue stream. It is the job of the elected officials. However, in case you need ideas, let me just give you one example of how to raise the revenue for the now-comp waivers. Georgia ranks 50th for mental health services, but as of January 1st, it also ranks 50th for the cigarette tax. In closing, I would like to quote my representative, Mike Walensky, from the morning order he gave on Disability Day on February 18th, 2020. He said the following: "I firmly believe that the moral test of government is how the government treats children, elderly, sick, the needy, and the handicapped." Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. Hopefully that gives you a good sense for what the families go through on a regular basis. And now to talk about the moral imperative, because this is not a partisan issue. This is a moral issue. Our good friend Don McLaughlin is going to speak to that.
Good afternoon. I am not sure that this much love visits this building any other time of the year when this group shows up. Do you feel the love, the commitment in this room? This hall needs more of it. I am thankful to be here with the amazing people that have gathered. These halls are filled daily with countless people who live in our great city and this great state, and they say they want the best for every Georgian. My name is Don McLaughlin, and for the last 25 years, I've been blessed to be the pastor of the North Atlanta Church of Christ, which is where I've met this beautiful family, Evan and Phil and Lisa and Evan's sister, Emily. I want to begin with a story of love. Just after we came to this church, I got a call, and I've got them a lot as a pastor, from a very excited family. A new baby had been born, and everybody was excited. And it was a thrilling conversation. And because of the time frame, I've had the opportunity to watch this young lady grow up. Like, I remember when she went to preschool and elementary school and middle school and high school. I remember her baptism and her wedding. And I remember the call where we got the news that now she was going to be a mother. But a couple of months later, and many in this room are familiar with this, my family is familiar with it, they got a call from a doctor after that test. And you know the one I'm talking about, the chromosomal test. That led to a conversation and the onset of not just new worries, but new knowledge, new wonderment. That same mother that had called me 25 years ago to announce the birth of her baby called me about her daughter, her son-in-law. So we had a conversation. I'm not here today to talk about that test. I'm not here to talk about that medical concerns, the pros and cons. What I'm here to talk about is the conversation I had with her. Because you see, she's an investigator. So she went online and she started looking at her home state, her husband's home state, the people they call home, the place they proudly call home. They started looking into the state where they want to raise their child. And she asked me, do you know that this state is at the bottom of care for a child like the one I might be carrying? And I said, yes, I do. She asked me this question. Do you think we'll have to move away from our home, move away from our family, move to another state to get the care that we need for our child? We don't want to move somewhere else. We want to raise our child here. My question to this legislature and to this administration is, why would any Georgian under your care have to leave their home state to find the care they need for their child? Is that the message we want to send? I'm sorry, if your child is born in a way that is different than what you anticipated, you need to go somewhere else. You see, it's not that we can't find the money. We can always find the money for what we consider valuable. Oh, you know what your grandmama told you. She said, don't you forget where you came from. Remember your values. Well, are you remembering your values? Are you remembering where you came from? Oh, I know that a lot of us put a lot of faith in the scriptures. And in Proverbs 31, there's this famous passage about women of incredible character. Prior to that passage is a story about a mama. Her son was going to be king, and she had some advice for him. She was worried about how sometimes when people become officials, that they forget where they came from. She told her son about not getting intoxicated with so many things in life, and I quote, that you would forget what has been decreed. You would deprive all the oppressed of their rights. You wouldn't speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. So have we become so intoxicated that we can't look at the beautiful faces of the beautiful people right here in this hall, right this moment, and say yes to them? One of our favorite athletes here in Atlanta is Dikembe Mutombo. Now, you remember Dikembe. He was a shot blocker. And he always had that famous little wag of the finger. Now, Dikembe's over 7 feet tall. I am not. I saw Dikembe at lunch. I went up to say hello to him. I said, how you doing? He looked down at me. He said, Pastor, how you doing? You remember his deep voice? And he started talking to me and he said, you know, people wonder why I give away my money. You know why he does it? Because he remembers where he came from. He knows what life is about. He said, my grandfather was a pastor. My father was a pastor. My uncle is a deacon. And someday I will stand before God and God will say to me, now listen for Dikembe's voice. God will say to me, Dikembe, I gave you a body and I gave you a voice. What have you done with it? He said, Pastor, God's going to ask you the same question. And I'm saying to you, elected officials of this great state that we love, what will you do with your voice?
Don, thank you very much. Now we'd like to hear from Sally Harrell. Sally is a champion of the special needs community, and we'd love to hear what you have to say, Sally.
We are here, and we are here to be heard. And when we go home, we are still here. A humane and civilized society cares for its most vulnerable citizens. And as long as Georgia has a waiting list for now and comp waivers, Georgia has failed to live up to this basic standard. We are here to propose that this waiting list be fully funded during the next 5 years, as spelled out in Senate Bill 208, because it is the morally right thing to do. Georgia's chief economist stated in January that the economic outlook for the next 5 years is good. Georgia's rainy day fund is full. And this year, the state has taken in billions of dollars in revenue that was not anticipated. If we don't do this now, then when? The legislature has also proclaimed this year to be the year for mental health. To fund the waiting list is to meet the mental health needs of families living with disabilities. It is well known that the continuous stress of caregiving adversely affects the physical and the mental health of caregivers. The work is chronic and demanding. Georgia has the resources it needs to eliminate the now comp waiting list. It just needs the political will to do it. Governor Kemp, when proposing a $1.6 billion tax cut for the fiscal year 2023, said, I believe that when the government takes in more money than it needs, surplus funds should be sent back. But Governor Kemp, the government has not finished the job until the waiting list is gone. Numerous cuts to taxes have been enacted while the waiting list grew. When thinking about the revenue needed to eliminate the waiting list, Georgia could also consider increasing the tobacco cigarette tax, which as of January ranks the lowest in the country. Georgia also ranks the lowest in mental health services. Yet, according to the CDC, smoking is the leading cause of preventable disease, disabilities, and death in the US. It is appropriate to use something like a cigarette tax to fund disability services. If Georgia supports life, then Georgia will find a way to support us. We are here. Please hear us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. And we're open to questions and answers. Or questions, and then we'll give you some answers.
Question for the senator. Can you talk about the staffing challenges and how you see the bill? Can it help address that in a way, or do you think there needs to be a complementary measure to go along with your bill to address that problem?
So the question is, what was referred to during some of the speeches is that our providers, the people who take care of some of the people you see standing on the steps, their wages are very, very low. And they're oftentimes, understandably, going to get a job at Walmart because they get paid better. That is an issue that was brought to my attention this year. So that is an issue that we need to work on concurrently while we fund the waiting list. I am actually in the process of drafting a bill that should help with that. When Georgia submits wage increase requests to the federal government, they have to submit along with that rate studies. And so the Georgia government has to conduct those rate studies. A new rate study has not been done in Georgia since 2015. So we're having difficulty getting those rate approvals done through the federal government simply because we don't have the rate study to go with it. So I will be dropping a bill in the next few days that requires the state government to complete a comprehensive rate study every 3 years so that we never get behind like that.
Well, I'll start, and then if anybody wants to follow, please do. So I mentioned in my talk that it's been at least 10 years since I first walked in the march, the Unlock the Waiting List March, that had hundreds and hundreds of family members and special needs persons come to the Capitol to say, please unlock the waiting list, please provide the services that we need to be able to live in our home and communities with quality of life. So here we are 10 years later. The past 3 years, I've come to the state capitol along with Evan and Lisa. I've met some sessions, over 50 senators and representatives. And first thing I would say is, do you know about the now comp waiver issue? Half the time they'd say, no, please tell me about it. So it's education, that's number one. It's kind of frustrating that they don't know that there are these 7,000 people out there who need help. And then secondly, that once they are educated on it, nothing happens. Sally's trying to get to the governor, who's, the budget comes out of the governor's office, and we're only seeing 100 waivers on average a year. The governor won't even meet with her to be able to talk about this issue. It's frustrating. And, we just have to live and work and keep trying and keep fighting. And this is for a community that is incredibly difficult to come here like a lot of these people did. So it's frustrating. It's tiring. Anybody else?
I think Governor Kemp needs to realize that there's people out there that need help. We need the help and support from the nation and the state. And I believe that is one thing that to say you're going to do it, but act on it.
Yeah, you may. Sure.
This is my first time here. I have had the pleasure to get to know Philip Woody and Evan through my church. What you heard from Don is what I hear on Sunday. He will practice what he preaches. I'm here without my son because, unlike many disabled, he's able to work, and he's at work right now. One thing that was not covered in Phil's wonderful address is that there are many people who are labeled disabled. They can work. My son works. They can. All of these jobs that are out here, we say that we have a job shortage. Say we have we're hiring. We're hiring. How many people, like my son, like others, could fill those jobs? When they fill those jobs, there's taxes taken out. Where better for their taxes to go than to help the people right here? And even though my son can work, there's still the question, what happens? What happens when my son, when I am not here, when his father is not here? Where does he go? What do we do? We do not have family here. We have family in other states. But the question is always there. What happens? That's why I'm here. That's why we're all here. And thank you for this opportunity to allow us to speak.
Are there any other questions? Any other questions? You're good. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for. Oh yeah.
Can I say
Just real
one
quick.
thing?
One thing, real
Just-
quick.
Hi, I'm Celeste Chippereau. This is my son Peter. We moved here 5 years ago from Michigan, where my son had 5 days a week at a day program, transportation to and from his day program, respite services. We came here to nothing. I want to say to anybody thinking about moving to Georgia with a disabled family member, don't. There isn't options for them here unless you're going to pay out of your own pocket. To have to pay $25 an hour to have a caregiver come so my husband and I can go out and do something doesn't make for an easy day. To find daycare program for him is close to $100 a day out of our pocket. I know we are blessed to be able to handle this at this point, but like this woman said, someday I'm not going to be here, my husband is not going to be here. What is there going to be for our son? So I hope that the state of Georgia can get off the bottom of the list and move up and help 7,000 families when we came here, because my husband's job was moved here. You know, we are at a point where we thought everybody would be like Michigan. I didn't realize how bad it would be here for our son. So please, with the legislature here, take care of its citizens and make sure they have programs that are affordable for families and lives that they can be fulfilled and do things to be happy. Thanks.
Yes. Great. Good. One more.
I'll make it quick. I am a guardian of a special need child, and his mother had to sacrifice every single thing because she knew her son would always need care and she would not always be there. And he is totally nonverbal, self-abuse, stay up all times of night. It's hard to find caregivers for him because of his abilities and the cost. For his ability, the cost would be tremendous because right now, I have him all the time, and there's days that I don't sleep. He comes to my office. I own a home health agency. I specialize in special needs, along with all type of autism, everything, because they have to be heard and they're human, and everybody needs to know that. When I take Matthew out with me, people stare, and I just rub his head and look at them. His mother used to be embarrassed by it. It would upset her so much when people stare at him. So I'm here to support all special need of all types because we all are human and we all need to be seen.
I have to make one quick comment. To the governors and to fellow legislators, we are very proud to say we are #1 state in business. Let's start saying we are #1 place for the people of Georgia, whether we're able or disabled. We stand with you. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, this is my first year to come and visit, but I have a son who is currently institutionalized in the state of Tennessee, 4 hours away from us, because we don't have access to services in the home that would keep him safe, that would keep his siblings safe. They care for their brother. They work hard with me to keep him safe, but to keep themselves safe. And all we're asking for is human decency. They are people. They are people who need a little extra, and we just want to have the opportunity to have him home with us so that I can be his parent, so that I can care for him, so that his siblings can have a childhood with him. I just feel like it's so important that everybody understand that it's not just, oh, the money. It's experiences, it's life. My daughters, we fill in small parts of their childhood because now he's got care and there are people with him, and so now we're making up for the childhood that they've lost for years because he's not okay. We can't leave our home. We don't have anybody who can help us when we take him out in public. I mean, you see the pictures. This is what my daughters do for him. He is surrounded constantly with his siblings to keep him safe in public so that we can have experiences in the world. That's cheating them of a childhood too. It's the most important thing we can do.
Anyone else? Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, everyone, for making the difficult trip to the state capitol. I know it's not the most accessible place. But I'm here to say that we will not quit until the waiting list is gone.